Jungkook and Jimin's last hug makes the army cry. The police suddenly pick Jungkook up. Incheon Airport that afternoon was filled with cries and cries of the army who had been waiting since morning. They knew Jungkook and Jimin would show up, but no one expected that the brief encounter would turn out to be one of the most emotional moments in BTS history. As soon as Jungkook stepped out, Jimin immediately approached him with a smile mixed with emotion. Without many words, the two embraced each other tightly, as if the world around them stopped spinning. The hug is not just a greeting, but a silent message of longing, loyalty, and an irreplaceable bond. Many soldiers wiped away tears when they saw the expressions of the two. Jungkook was seen holding back his emotions, while Jimin whispered something in his ear, words that made Jungkook even more speechless and hugged her even stronger. However, that brief happiness suddenly turned into panic. A few minutes after the touching moment, a police entourage was seen entering the airport area. The public was shocked when they walked up to Jungkook. Although the atmosphere became tense, Jimin still stood by his side, even holding Jungkook's hand as if unwilling to let go. The airport atmosphere is getting boisterous. Army shouted, some tried to get closer to find out what really happened. Some were crying, some were screaming for the police to explain why. Jimin looked surprised, his eyes filled with tears, but he tried to stay firm in front of the fans and accompanied Jungkook until the last second. The moment of the last hug was a picture that made an impression on everyone's hearts. The scene is full of haru before the tension hits. It's no wonder that Korean and international media immediately highlighted this incident, while armies around the world expressed their sadness, anxiety, and sense of solidarity on social media. Army's tears broke out as Jungkook and Jimin's warm embrace seemed to be a sign of farewell. Cameras from various media immediately panned, and not a few fans recorded the moment with trembling hands. Someone shouted, "Don't let go." Some can only cry while holding a light stick in their hands. Jungkook, with his usually confident face, looked fragile for a moment. His dark eyes glazed over, his lips quivering as if holding back the words he was unable to utter. On the other hand, Jimin, who has always been known as an entertainer, looks the most devastated. He tried to smile, tried to give strength, but his voice sounded low as he said, "I will always be here. Don't be afraid." The remark was caught vaguely by some nearby fans and immediately spread widely on social media. Thousands of tweets appeared in just minutes, making the keyword Jungkook's last hug the #1 trending worldwide. But the warmth dissipated when the police approached. The sound of their firm steps on the airport floor seemed to break the emotional silence that was enveloping Jungkook and Jimin. Many soldiers do not understand what is really happening. Is this just a misunderstanding? Or is there a big reason that Jungkook should be picked up by the authorities? Jimin was clearly panicked. His hands clasped Jungkook's wrists tightly, as if trying to keep the police from separating them. Army who watched was increasingly sobbing to see how the two tried to calm each other in the midst of tension. One of the witnesses said he saw Jimin whisper in the strangest voice, "I won't leave you alone." This sentence left many fans unable to hold back their tears, as it shows how strong their emotional bond is despite the truly stressful situation. The media is not silent either. In a matter of hours, news of this incident graced the front pages of Korean to international portals. Photos of Jimin and Jungkook hugging were widely circulated, filled with captions full of emotions such as "the bond that cannot be separated" or "Army's tears are a witness to their love of friendship." However, what was most surprising was how Jimin stayed upright by Jungkook's side until the last second. He didn't let go of his gaze, even when Jungkook finally had to walk after the police. The sight of their interconnected eyes became the most heartbreaking sight of the day. It was as if they were speaking a language without words, a promise to return, a promise to stay strong. The atmosphere at the airport, which was originally boisterous by the cries of fans, suddenly turned into silence full of question marks. The fans could only watch with teary eyes how Jungkook was led away by some uniformed officers. The journalist's camera flash flickered incessantly, trying to capture every second of that shocking moment. However, among the crowd, there was one unmoved figure, Jimin. His face was pale, his eyes were red, but his gaze could not be separated from Jungkook. With a quick step, he tried to approach his best friend and stage partner. Some of the staff tried to restrain him, but Jimin insisted, until he finally managed to stand beside Jungkook. "Why did they take you?" "You didn't do anything," Jimin said in a trembling voice. Jungkook just lowered his head, clearly holding back tears. The moment felt so quiet, even though thousands of fans' voices echoed throughout the room. Jimin grabbed Jungkook's hand, holding it tight. "I don't care about the camera or the people screaming. It's just him," and Jungkook, one of the policemen, admonished them to separate, but Jimin said out loud, "If he has to go, I'll go with him. I won't let him face this alone." The sentence immediately triggered the hysteria of the army that watched. Many were crying, many were shouting encouragement, as if trying to convey support to keep them strong. Jungkook then turned to Jimin, his eyes full of sadness, but there was a glimmer of warmth. He whispered briefly, "Don't worry, I'll be back. Wait for me." Those words felt like promises hanging in the air, hitting the heart of anyone who heard them. Social media immediately caught fire. Hashtags like #ProtectJungkook, #StayStrongJungkook, and #Jimin for Jungkook are trending globally within minutes. Thousands of posts full of prayers, support, and speculation flooded the timeline. Many have speculated that this police pickup was not a criminal act, but rather related to an administrative misunderstanding or even part of the strict rules that a global idol as big as Jungkook must live by. Nevertheless, the army still highlighted how Jimin showed his courage. He stood before the police, refusing to back down, until HYBE staff intervened to calm the situation. But still, the camera's glare could not ignore reality. There were tears falling on Jimin's cheeks, although he hurriedly wiped them off. For many, the moment was not just an unexpected incident. It was a clear proof of how strong Jimin and Jungkook's relationship was, a bond that is not only limited to group mates, but families that support each other in joy and sorrow. The black car carrying Jungkook hurtled out of the airport, leaving thousands of soldiers still screaming in confusion. However, one of the cars behind him was also moving along. Jimin was in the car with HYB's staff. He refused to go home, refused to wait for news. In his heart, there was only one determination. He had to be by Jungkook's side, no matter what. At the police station, a tense atmosphere enveloped the room. Jungkook sat on the interrogation room chair, his hands folded on the table. Even though he was not handcuffed, the atmosphere still made him depressed. His gaze was blank. Occasionally, he took a deep breath to calm down. The officer in front of him inquired more about administration, international work permits, and details of his whereabouts in America, things that actually seemed more like formal procedures than serious accusations. However, Jungkook couldn't cover up his anxiety. In his mind, he was more worried about the army, his family, and especially Jimin. Is Jimin okay? Does he feel angry, scared, or disappointed? Those thoughts hit him much harder than any interrogation. Shortly thereafter, the door of the room opened. A HYBE staff entered with a frantic face, then behind him, Jimin. All eyes turned. Even the officers looked surprised to see the arrival of a global superstar entering so boldly into the interrogation room. He is not alone. "I will accompany you," said Jimin in a steady voice, although his eyes were clearly still puffy from crying. Jungkook turned his head quickly, his eyes widened, and for a moment all the fear he harbored seemed to just collapse. The officer had banned, but HYBE staff had confirmed that Jimin was present as an official companion. In a stern tone, HYBE's manager even said, "You can't separate them. If Jungkook has to go through this process, Jimin will remain by his side." At that moment, Jimin walked over and sat on the seat next to Jungkook. He didn't say much, just grabbed Jungkook's hand under the table, holding it tight as if to give him strength. Their gazes met, and even without a word, Jungkook knew Jimin trusted him.